Hello again, we're back. I did promise we'd be here this evening with a late update on, which was a Tuesday in Glasgow or with a client rather, which was another great day. Definitely one of those ones where it was a long one. I started the day, this doesn't normally happen. This is going to give a false portrayal of my business travel lifestyle, but I had to get a taxi to the airport, which was, showed up outside the house, and instead of using the bus, great, if you could afford to do it, or if it made business sense to do it all the time, fantastic, all the power to you. But again, I think it's more a reality of most businesses and most business owners, in that paying whatever it was for a taxi to the airport every time would not really be that wise or necessary. But anyhow, started the day in style with a very talkative taxi man at 4:30. So that was interesting. But yeah, all good. Great session. I'll come back to something that came up in the session in a second. But I always think it's interesting. I keep bringing this up also more so for myself, because I alluded to this a couple of times. I'm just curious how I function when I'm traveling. I definitely, whenever I was on the taxi there, and then when I was at the airport before the flight, and on the flight over, and then just I had an hour and a bit in a cafe or coffee shop before the session. Each of those spells, it was great. That was kind of like my working day, truthfully. I got various things done. I was able to prioritize certain things. So for example, in the taxi I was reading something I'd been wanting to read for a while. Took about 15-20 minutes to read it. Great. Airport, I was able to go through some emails and do some actual typing / work, which was super. Did a bit of prep for the session, and then on the plane I did some content writing, some drafts, which was nice. Pretty rough stuff on an iPad, but it was good to get it done. I can then take that, and it's very easy to take a draft like that and then edit it and put it on LinkedIn. So I have about 5 or 6 of those ready. And then just before the session, I had one specific thing I needed to do for one client for next week, and I got it done. And I think, honestly, that is very happy with that. So before I'd even done the client session, I feel like I pretty much did everything I needed to do today, which was great. I have pat myself on the back for that one. I mean, that to me is very reflective of a good day's work, and we're only at this point for what's worth, we're at 9:30 in the morning now. So certainly something to be said for, I know there are people out there that get up at silly o'clock and do all their work before a certain time of the day maybe. So yeah, there's certainly something to be said for doing that maybe. But anyhow, the session was good. Grabbed some lunch. But then interestingly, I think it's inevitable. A session, as I've talked about before, these are quite intensive. This one wasn't so intensive. It was just a good discussion about a few things, getting a few things out into the room and making a few decisions. But they're still draining. You still take up your energy. And then afterwards, you maybe struggle to immediately switch on to something else. And yeah, certainly was the case today. Had some lunch, took a break, didn't really do very much. Got to the airport to come back, and I did something pretty simple. And yeah, I really didn't have the motivation or enthusiasm, truthfully, to do much more after that. And I think that's fair enough. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and now I'm doing this, basically. So yeah, this won't be a very long one. I suppose the main thing I just wanted to touch on was, coincidentally, I did a LinkedIn post on this morning, and then the very same thing happened during the session. And I suppose I never really explicitly say to people when I speak to them for the first time, I never really explicitly say to an agency owner, I'm going to hold you to account so that you keep progressing key things in your business. I never really say it like that. I suppose maybe I should a bit more I maybe should be a bit more blatant with that and just be like, look, accountability is a huge piece of what I offer as part of my service or partnership, but it is something that is quite important for these owners that I'm working with, because one of the key things I hear, and I heard it again today, which is brilliant, a lot of stuff comes up in the first 3 months will be things that they've said to each other if there's co-founders, or said to someone else if they're a founder. And it's almost like a regurgitation or a reiteration of that same stuff. But the difference is that they then actually take it and act on it, which is obviously critical. I mean, if you're in any business, you know how important it is to you could talk about things for years, which some agency owners do, and they never progress them. So that came up today in a couple of ways. I think as the owner alluded to, there are just so many different things and it can be quite overwhelming. So which one do you pick? Which one do you start with? Which one do you focus on? There are all sorts of reasons why you don't get things done. All we did today, and all I do a lot of the time with founders, is help them identify the right thing and then make sure they focus in on that. And if you do that consistently every few weeks, you really start to build momentum. And that's what I said, I think, in the last couple of videos, that I really feel like a couple of clients now are starting to build that momentum, maybe 3 to 6 months into a partnership with me, because you're getting to see some initial results or short-term, mid-term gains from that type of progress. So that came up today. I done a LinkedIn post about it. It's very much on my mind, and yeah, I think again, it's like that snowball or compounding effect. Like if you're able to make, I'm all for the idea of taking a bigger bet or making a big change, and there's time and a place for that. But there's certainly something to be said for steady incremental gains in the background or on the side as well. So if you can do that in some key areas, then over time you really start to see progress at scale. So yeah, that was probably the main thought of the day. That's the last client session of February, so that's in the second month of the year gone in terms of client work, which is, we're 1/6 of the way through the year in terms of work I'll do with clients, at least the existing ones. So March is going to be a big month. March feels like, to me, based on where I'm at with some clients, there's going to be some really exciting, interesting things happening in March. There are things that have been in motion for a couple of months that we can then really, I suppose, assess and see how it's gone. Just in a couple of ways, it's going to be interesting. I've also got quite a lot of, as I alluded to recently, I'm expecting, I know I have at least 3 discovery sessions in March. I'd hope to book in a couple more based on some conversations I have going on. So it's going to be really interesting. Since I started doing these videos, I actually haven't done a discovery session with a new potential client. So they've all been booked in for around this time in the next couple of weeks. So really excited to do that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all that's on my mind. I've got a newsletter drafted and ready to go. I have to record a couple of videos for that, which I'm going to do now in a second. But other than that, that's pretty much the news at FlexOps HQ. And yeah, I don't know what the travel plan is going to look like for next month. I think there'll be a bit more online work, which is nice. But that will all be planned for clients in the coming days too. So yeah, a couple of things to wrap up the month. The main thing for me to win the week this week is setting a clear plan for each of those clients, and yeah, just making sure I'm very much I've given myself complete clarity on what I'm doing with each of these clients for the next 30 to 60 days. So now that I've finished client sessions for the month, I can do that really well, and that'll probably be one of the main things for tomorrow. So I think that's a wrap. That's a wrap for Tuesday, 27th of February. Okay, look, chat to you tomorrow. We'll see what comes up.